You should have left a long time ago, Madison spat, her arms crossed like she was the queen of this damn kingdom. But it wasn't her words that broke me, it was Hannah, my 15-year-old stepdaughter, screaming from the top of the stairs. Why don't you just leave already? I stood there frozen, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter so hard I could feel the granite edge cutting into my palm. Madison didn't even flinch. She just nodded at her daughter like she approved, like this was some tag team ambush and I was the fool who walked into it. We'd be better off without you, she added, with the kind of smug calm that comes from knowing she already won. And you know what I did? Nothing. No shouting. No begging. No dramatic movie scene declarations. I just grabbed my keys, walked upstairs, packed a single bag, and left. The funny thing is, when I walked out that door, I thought that was rock bottom. I thought those words would be the heaviest thing to carry that night. But nothing could have prepared me for the weight of what I found the next morning. I barely slept. I was at some dusty old motel on Route 32, with the hum of the fridge and the occasional scream from a raccoon or God knows what outside the window. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise burned through the blinds. Around 6 a.m., my phone vibrated. Once. Then again. Then again. By the time I picked it up, I had 27 missed calls, mostly from Madison. No voicemails. No texts. Just a barrage of missed calls, like she had something urgent to say. Or something to hide. Then the last missed call stood out, Kyle. My neighbor. My gym buddy. My drinking partner every Friday night for the past 3 years. Something cracked in my chest right then. I didn't know what, but it cracked. I didn't call him back. I didn't need to. I tapped on his name and went straight to his Instagram. And there it was, the video. He must have forgotten about the auto-upload. It was a 10-second story clip. Blurry. Music playing in the background. But I recognized that laugh immediately, Madison's. That pitchy, fake giggle she always gave when she was trying too hard. And there she was, in a tight little dress I'd never seen before, sitting on his lap. Laughing. Holding a drink. Leaning into him like she belonged there. Then Kyle, that son of a bitch, turned the camera on himself and said, "Told y'all I always get what I want." The story cut off. I didn't breathe for a full 30 seconds. The motel room spun. I felt my throat close up and something deep inside me split. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something colder. Something darker. I called him. Straight to voicemail. I called her. This time, she picked up. Hello? Her voice was fake sweet, like nothing happened. Like I was supposed to just crawl back and say sorry for walking out. I didn't say anything. Hello? Tyler? Still nothing. If you're gonna be dramatic, I don't have time. Say it. My voice came out low, hollow, like it belonged to someone else. She paused. Say what? Say his name. A beat of silence. Then, you're being paranoid. You always do this. This is why I can't talk to you. Click. She hung up. Not denied. Not explained. Not even a lie worth a damn. Just gaslight and go. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the call button. I was shaking, not from fear. From fury. From humiliation. From the realization that this wasn't just betrayal. This was intentional. That video wasn't an accident. That was a message. And I'd gotten it loud and clear. You know what's worse than being cheated on? Being mocked while it's happening. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up, grabbed my bag, and walked out of the motel. Today wasn't going to be about feelings. It was going to be about facts. About truth. About tearing the mask off the lies she built our marriage on. And by tonight, Madison would know, you don't make a fool out of a man who gave you everything, not without consequences. By the time I hit the freeway, my hands were steady. Too steady. That kind of calm you feel before a storm tears the house down. I didn't blast music. Didn't talk to anyone. Just me, the road, and the replay of that 10-second video seared into my skull like a branded mark. Madison on Kyle's lap. Kyle looking into the camera like he just won the lottery. I pulled off at a gas station outside town, not because I needed fuel, but because I needed air. I stepped out and leaned against the hood of my truck, feeling the morning chill cut through my shirt. 3 years. That's how long Kyle and I had known each other. I met him at the gym. Spotting each other on bench press turned into beers on Fridays, double dates with our wives, birthday parties for Hannah, even working together on my garage remodel. I trusted him. Trusted him in my home. Trusted him around my wife. Turns out, he was already inside her. That thought alone made my jaw clench so hard I thought my molars would crack. But what hit harder than betrayal from a friend was realizing how deep Madison's game had been. She wasn't sloppy. She didn't miss curfews. No suspicious perfume. No lipstick stains. No midnight texts. She played the long game. Silent. Precise. The clues had been there, I just didn't want to see them. 6 months ago, she started working out again. Said she needed to get in shape. I was proud. Encouraged her. Even got her new shoes. She joined a gym, his gym. She started wearing tighter clothes, shorter dresses. I noticed, sure. But I thought she was rediscovering herself. That's what she said. I'm finally feeling like me again. She started staying out late. Girls' night. Book club. Wine tasting. Funny how the wine tastings always happened on the same nights Kyle's wife was out of town for work. And the distance, that part hurt the most. It was gradual. We stopped holding hands. She stopped laughing at my jokes. Eye contact vanished. Our talks turned into updates. Our touches became mechanical, like she was checking a box. And the worst part? I kept trying. Date nights. Surprise gifts. Weekend getaways. She never refused. But I could tell. She wasn't there. Her body was, but her soul had left months ago. I thought maybe it was my fault. Maybe I was working too much. Maybe I'd gotten boring. Maybe it was just a phase. No, it wasn't a phase. It was a plan. And I was the idiot funding her little fantasy. Back in the truck, I turned the key and headed to the one place no man wants to go after finding out the truth, home. I wasn't coming to scream. I wasn't coming to beg. I was coming for answers. I needed to see her face when I told her I knew. The neighborhood was too quiet. My house looked the same. But it wasn't mine anymore. Not really. It belonged to a liar and a traitor and the teenage echo chamber she raised to hate me. I parked and walked up the driveway. The porch still had the potted plants I bought her last spring. She never watered them. They were dead now. Fitting. I knocked. Once. No answer. I knocked again. Harder. Then I used my key. Madison was in the kitchen, phone in hand, pacing like a cat about to cough up a lie. She turned when she saw me. Her eyes widened, only for a second. You can't just walk in here, she snapped. You left. No, I said, stepping in and closing the door behind me. You made me leave. She rolled her eyes and went back to her phone. You're being dramatic. I saw the video. Silence. Dead silence. Her fingers froze on the screen. Her lips parted just slightly. Then, like clockwork, she shifted into manipulation mode. What video? Don't. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me again, Madison. I saw you. On his lap. Laughing. You weren't drunk. You weren't having fun with friends. You were with him. You were exactly where you wanted to be. She exhaled through her nose, finally putting the phone down. You really think that's cheating, she said, like she was explaining taxes to a child. Do you think it isn't? Oh my God, Tyler. It was a party. I was sitting on a lap. Big deal. A lap that belongs to my friend. He's not your anything anymore, she hissed, stepping closer. You left. You don't get to judge me. You've been seeing him behind my back. Just say it. You know what? Fine. She folded her arms. Yeah. I've been with Kyle. And guess what? He listens to me. He sees me. He doesn't make me feel like a ghost in my own house. My pulse roared in my ears. And Hannah? I said. She knew. Madison smirked. She's not your daughter, Tyler. She's mine. And she sees how weak you are. It felt like being kicked in the chest. Over and over. I gave you everything, I whispered. I gave her everything. She looked at me with no remorse. No shame. And then, with the kind of venom that can only come from someone who wants to hurt you on purpose, she said. You never gave us anything we actually wanted. That's when something inside me broke for good. I walked past her, grabbed the bag I hadn't unpacked, and headed toward the door. Where are you going now? She called after me. I didn't turn around. I just said. To give someone else the love you pissed on. And I slammed the door that I didn't drive far. Just to an empty overlook I used to visit when I needed to think, back when I still believed thinking could fix things. The truck idled beneath me as I stared out over the ridge, the valley dotted with sleepy rooftops and morning fog. Somewhere down there, my life had just imploded, and nobody knew a damn thing about it but me. I pulled my phone out. I didn't know why, maybe to call someone. But who? My parents were dead. My brother was somewhere in Arizona trying to pretend his third marriage was different from the first two. And Kyle? Well, Kyle would be lucky to walk straight after I got through with him, if I ever let myself go that far. I scrolled to my photos, found the video again. There she was. Madison. In that red dress I'd never seen before. Short, tight, like she was auditioning for someone else's life. Her head thrown back laughing, one hand playing with Kyle's beard, the same beard I'd made fun of just last week over beers and wings. 10 seconds. That's all it took to ruin 10 years. I pressed play again. Over and over. Not because I needed to see it, I already knew every frame. But because I didn't want to forget. I didn't want to slip into denial. I wanted the betrayal to stay sharp, to carve me into something that would never be fooled again. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Tyler? It was Kyle's voice. Cold washed over me like dirty water. What do you want? Listen, man. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. You didn't mean for it to be recorded, you mean. He paused. I'm sorry. I never. Don't. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Don't insult me by pretending this was a mistake. Okay, he said, exhaling. You're right. I screwed up. But it wasn't just me. She came to me, Tyler. You don't know what it's been like. You're sleeping with my wife, and you think you get to play the victim? He went quiet. Tell me this, I said, voice low, shaking. How long? Another pause. About 6 months. 6 months. That was longer than I expected. Longer than I wanted to believe. So all those nights you came over. Cookouts. Football. Jokes. And you were just what, keeping her warm while I grabbed more beer? Tyler. No. Shut up. Just answer this one thing. Okay. Did Hannah know? A long, awful silence. Then, yeah. She did. I didn't even say goodbye. I hung up and launched the phone across the cab. It hit the glove box and bounced onto the passenger seat, screen still lit. There's a particular kind of pain you don't scream through. You settle into it. Like a man walking into the ocean fully clothed, knowing he won't swim back. That was me. Drowning in a silence that didn't ask questions anymore. But something else started bubbling under all that hurt. Something heavier than grief. Colder than betrayal. Clarity. It hit me then, they weren't even hiding it. Not really. Not anymore. The video wasn't leaked. It was posted. Kyle had looked into the camera. I always get what I want. Madison hadn't denied it. She flaunted it. Told me I was weak. Told me I didn't give her what she wanted. That wasn't an affair. That was war. And I'd been the fool who brought flowers to a battlefield. But not anymore. I wasn't going to burn their house down. I wasn't going to key Kyle's car or air their dirty laundry online. No. That's what they expected, some broken man flailing in a storm of his own making. I would bury them with silence. With dignity. With documentation. I grabbed the phone, cracked screen and all, and opened my email. I forwarded the video to my lawyer, along with a message. Prepare divorce proceedings. I have proof of infidelity. Full custody of assets. Let's make this clean. Quick. Brutal. I didn't need revenge. I needed freedom. When I pulled into the driveway 3 hours later, Madison was on the porch. She looked shocked to see me. Probably expected me to disappear for good. She walked up, arms folded tight. Back already? I didn't answer. I thought you said you were leaving for good. I stepped past her. I did. I just came back to pick up what's mine. Like what? Your dignity. She smiled, actually smiled, like she'd landed some final blow. But I didn't even blink. I turned back, eyes locked on hers. No. My company. My accounts. My name. And my pride, the one thing you never touched. Then I handed her an envelope. What's this? Divorce papers. She blinked, the smirk faltering. It's over, Madison. You don't get to spit on me and then act surprised when I stop handing you umbrellas. She looked like she wanted to say something cruel, something sharp. But nothing came out. I walked to the bedroom, packed a second bag, my real one, with documents, my laptop, the only photo of my mom I had left. And then I left. No yelling. No drama. Just silence. But it wasn't defeat. It was peace. And I was finally ready to start over, not as the man she broke, but as the man who walked away from the fire without letting it swallow him. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay in my brother's guest room on a stiff mattress, staring at the ceiling as the fan creaked overhead like it was trying to speak for me. He had offered me a beer and a couch when I showed up with my bag and a face like cracked concrete. I didn't take the beer. I didn't say much at all. He didn't push. That's why I went to him, not for comfort, but for quiet. I didn't want the "she doesn't deserve you" talk. I didn't want the "you're better off" nonsense. I wanted the space to let everything inside me settle. And maybe rot. Because that's what betrayal does, it doesn't just hurt. It rots. It eats through your memories, recolors every good moment with suspicion. Every date night, every shared laugh, every lazy Sunday on the couch. You start asking, was she already gone then? Was that smile fake? Was her body in my bed while her mind was somewhere else? I don't know what's worse, being lied to or realizing you believed it because you wanted to. Around 3 a.m., I got up and walked outside. The neighborhood was quiet. Streetlights hummed. A lone cat darted across the sidewalk like even it didn't want to be seen. I sat on the curb and opened my phone. The screen was still cracked from when I threw it. Fitting. Messages were flooding in now. From Madison. You're overreacting. We weren't exclusive for a while, you knew that. I told you things were broken, and you didn't listen. You walked out, Tyler. Don't blame me for filling the gap. From Kyle. I'll step back if it makes things easier. I didn't mean for this to blow up like that. You and I can still be cool. We don't have to be enemies. That last one made me laugh, a sharp, hollow sound in the night. Still be cool? Man, I used to think Kyle was decent. Dumb, but decent. Turns out he was just dumb. Then came the one that stopped my breath. From Hannah. You never cared about us anyway. Just that. No, hey. No, I'm sorry. No teenage angst, no typo. Just a blade to the heart. Hannah. My stepdaughter. I raised her from the time she was 6. I taught her how to ride a bike. Held her hand through her first broken arm. Sat through ballet recitals and school plays and helped her cheat on math homework she swore she didn't need. And now, just because her mom filled her ears with poison, she turned me into some kind of villain? No. I couldn't let that slide. Not this time. The next day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to see my lawyer in person. Alan Burke. Bald, sharp-eyed, and mean in the way you want a divorce lawyer to be. I handed him the video, the text logs, even a few receipts I dug up showing Madison had transferred money from our joint account to personal expenses that lined up perfectly with Kyle's weekend trips. Alan smiled like a wolf sniffing blood. You're going to walk away clean, Tyler. Hell, you'll probably get the house if we push right. I don't want the house. He looked up. I want my house, I clarified. The one I'll build without her. He nodded. Fair enough. We spent 2 hours drawing up strategy, freezing joint accounts, reclaiming assets in my name, setting visitation boundaries with Hannah if I ever decided I wanted any. I wasn't sure yet. See, that's the thing they don't tell you about betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your compass. You don't know what direction is right anymore. You don't know if you're healing or hardening. After the meeting, I sat in my truck outside his office for a while. Watched people come and go. Couples holding hands. Moms with strollers. A man laughing into his phone like nothing in the world could touch him. I envied him. Then I drove. Not home. Not to the motel. Not to my brother's place. But to the cemetery. I parked and walked straight to the plot at the edge of the hill. My mom's grave. Quiet. Simple. Just like she was. I stood there a long time. No tears. Just silence. I miss you, I said. The wind didn't respond, but I felt it anyway. I wish you'd met Madison. You'd have seen through her in 5 minutes. A dry laugh. You'd have told me to stop playing the hero and start protecting myself. I crouched down and touched the cold stone. I think I forgot who I was trying to save. Her. Hannah? Or the version of myself that still believed I was loved? I stood up, shoved my hands into my pockets, and stared into the horizon. I'm not that man anymore. And that's okay. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Madison. We need to talk. This doesn't have to be ugly. I blocked her number. Then I opened a blank note on my phone and wrote 5 words. This is where I begin. Not where I restart. Not where I recover. Where I begin. Because the old version of me died on that kitchen floor the moment my stepdaughter told me to leave, and her mother agreed. Now I get to rebuild. Brick by brick. And this time, no one's sitting on my foundation unless they deserve to be there. 3 days later, I walked back into my house, not as a husband, not as a father, not even as a man looking for closure. I walked in like an executioner. Alan had sent the final papers. Everything was ready. I had just one task left. Madison was sitting on the couch in yoga pants and an oversized hoodie, legs curled under her like this was a normal Tuesday. No makeup. No fake smile. Just the same entitled look that used to pass for boredom, now it read like open contempt. You could have called, she said without looking up from her phone. I dropped the envelope on the coffee table. Thick. Sealed. Brutal. That's the call. She stared at it like it was a bomb. Maybe it was. I thought we were gonna talk. You thought wrong. Tyler, be serious. I am serious, I said, voice cold. Dead serious. The only thing we're going to talk about is how fast you sign those papers. She stood up fast, like she was suddenly offended. I think we should discuss custody. There is no custody, I cut her off. You made sure of that when you let Hannah talk to me like I was the villain in your little drama. You don't get to spit in my face and then ask for a ride home. Her jaw clenched. She's hurt, Tyler. You walked out on her. No. You walked her out on me. You stood there while she screamed at me like I was garbage. You didn't blink. Didn't flinch. You agreed with her. Madison opened her mouth to respond, but I raised a hand. Don't. Just sign. She sat back down, pulled the papers toward her like they were poison. I watched her skim through the terms, and for once, she didn't look smug. She looked cornered. That same look I've seen animals give when they realize the fence wasn't just a suggestion. I get nothing. You get exactly what you gave me, I said. Nothing but fake smiles and lies. This is insane, she muttered. You're acting like I was some monster. You are a monster, I said softly. You just wear yoga pants and post inspirational quotes to hide it. She scowled but signed the first page. I kept my voice calm. You could have had everything. You did have everything. A house, a partner, a man who showed up every damn day. And you traded it for Kyle's smug little ego and a few nights of validation. You weren't enough, she said. She didn't shout it. She didn't cry. She just said it. You weren't enough, she repeated, like it was a fact. Like she was telling me I'd left the light on. And I didn't argue. Because deep down, I knew, for a woman like her, I'd never be enough. Not because I was lacking, but because she was a bottomless pit of ego and insecurity dressed up like empowerment. Then I'm glad I stopped trying, I replied. You can chase your enough with Kyle, or whoever comes after him. I'm done playing a game where the rules change every day. She signed the rest in silence. When she handed the envelope back to me, I noticed her fingers were shaking. Just slightly. I didn't say anything. I turned to leave. You'll regret this, she said behind me. I paused at the door. No, I said, looking back. You will. But you'll dress it up in self-love hashtags and girls' nights until it almost looks like happiness. I left before she could throw anything else at me, words or otherwise. The next morning, I booked a trip. Not a vacation. A reset. I found a cabin 2 hours out, mountains, no signal, no noise. Just trees, cold air, and the kind of quiet that doesn't ask questions. I brought nothing but a duffel bag, a flask, and my mother's photo. The cabin smelled like pine and old wood. It creaked with every step, like it was learning to trust me. That night, I sat by the fireplace with a notepad. I didn't write poetry. I didn't pour my heart out in tortured metaphors. I wrote rules. Rules for the man I would be from now on. Never mistake comfort for love. If someone makes you beg for respect, walk away. If a child is turned against you, let them come back on their own, or not at all. Your silence can be louder than their screams. Use it. Always know where your line is, and never apologize for drawing it. I sat back and stared at those 5 sentences. They didn't fix the pain. They didn't erase the betrayal. But they were mine. And after months of being made to feel disposable, ownership felt like power. The final text came the next day. From Hannah. Short. Sharp. I'm sorry. I didn't know everything. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't reply. Because I wanted her apology, but I didn't need it. That's when I knew I was healing. Not because I'd forgiven Madison. Not because I had moved on. But because her voice no longer lived in my head. Because Kyle's smirk no longer made my blood boil. Because I could sit alone, surrounded by silence, and feel like something had finally come home. 2 weeks had passed. I didn't count them on a calendar. I counted them in mornings, the kind where I didn't wake up with the taste of bitterness in my mouth. Where I didn't replay the video in my head. Where my fingers didn't hover over Madison's name just to block and unblock her again. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a battleground. And in that mountain cabin, far from the echo of slammed doors and gaslighting words, I was finally learning what silence could teach me. Each morning, I made black coffee, no sugar, no cream. Just bitter truth in a cup. I chopped firewood. I read books I used to abandon halfway through. I rebuilt my appetite. For food. For air. For life. And then, one morning, I woke up to another text. This one came from a number I didn't recognize. Tyler. This is Julia. Kyle's wife. I think we need to talk. For a moment, I felt the air get thinner around me. Julia. The woman who'd hosted dinner with Madison and me. The woman who once cried in my kitchen about how Kyle had been distant lately. I remembered holding her hand across the counter and saying, "He's lucky to have you." What a fool I'd been. I thought about ignoring it. I thought about deleting it. But curiosity has a louder voice than wisdom sometimes. "Call me in 10, I replied. She did. Her voice was hollow. Like someone who'd used up all her good cries and was running on fumes. "First, I just want to say I'm sorry," she began. I didn't know how deep it all went. I knew he was pulling away, but I never thought it was with my wife, I finished. Yeah. Silence sat between us like a ghost neither of us wanted to acknowledge. "He told me last night," she continued. "Everything. The trips. The nights she just needed someone to talk to. He told me she said you were cold. Distant. That you didn't love her anymore." I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was typical. "She said that to him?" I asked. Julia's voice tightened. "And he believed her. 4 months. He thought he was her hero. But yesterday, he found out she was still messaging someone else. Some trainer at the gym." My heart paused. Wait. What? She's cheating on him now, Tyler. While he's over here thinking they're building something real. She told the trainer she was stuck with Kyle until the divorce came through, but she's just passing time. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel smug. I felt confirmed. Madison wasn't broken because of me. She was broken before me. She just used me to hold the mirror. She's a sickness, Julia said, voice cracking. And Kyle let it in our house. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry, Julia. I really am. Don't be. He moved out today. And I'm filing. Just like you. More silence. Then she asked, do you hate them? I took a breath. No. I pity them. She exhaled like that was the right answer. We hung up with no promises to keep in touch. Just a mutual understanding between two survivors of the same storm. When I drove back to town 3 days later, the air felt different. Colder. Cleaner. I stopped at a gas station. The same one I'd pulled into the morning I found the video. Except this time, I didn't lean on the hood to keep from falling. I just filled the tank and bought a black coffee. A man in a navy suit passed me on the way out and nodded. Morning. I nodded back. Just a man. Just a moment. But it struck me, I looked normal again. I wasn't carrying visible grief. I wasn't a walking wound. I was blending in. It felt good. Later that afternoon, I walked into my bank. Clean cut. Calm. I closed the last joint account Madison and I shared. Transferred the funds to a new one, under my name only. The teller smiled politely. New beginnings. Exactly. By evening, I was back at my brother's house. He was in the garage working on his bike. You look lighter, he said. I feel lighter. He tossed me a beer this time. I caught it. We didn't toast. We didn't need to. I cracked it open and let the bitter fizz remind me I was still here. Still standing. That night, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a journal. Not a memoir. A letter. To Hannah. I didn't know if I'd ever send it. But I had to get it out. Dear Hannah. I don't know if you'll ever read this. Maybe you've made up your mind. Maybe your mom made it for you. That's okay. You're 15. You've seen things from her side, and I won't fault you for it. But I need you to know something. I loved you. Fully. Fiercely. I never saw you as Step. You were mine from the moment you trusted me to hold your hand on your first day of school. I failed sometimes, sure. I wasn't perfect. But I showed up. Every single day. And if you ever remember that, if you ever feel confused about what happened, I want you to know, I never stopped loving you. Even when I walked away. Sometimes, walking away is the only way to survive. Take care of your heart, Hannah. The world will try to break it, protect it harder than I protected mine. Tyler. I saved it as, unsent letter, 1. There would be more. Because I was done being silent. I wasn't just recovering anymore. I was writing the story back in my own voice. It was strange how quickly people moved on. I went back to town for groceries the next morning, and no one looked at me like I was the guy whose wife blew up his life. No whispers. No awkward stares. Just small talk from the cashier and a polite nod from some guy in the deli line. But inside, I still felt like I was carrying rubble. Like I'd walked out of a collapsed building and everyone else just saw a man holding a backpack. Back home, my brothers, technically, but it was beginning to feel like a transition point rather than a couch crash. I started to clean up my digital life. Unsubscribed from Madison's Instagram. Deleted Kyle's number, even though I had it memorized. Removed old photos from my cloud storage. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Every snapshot of Madison's smile was like a dagger dipped in nostalgia. Nostalgia is dangerous. Nostalgia makes you forget betrayal. Nostalgia is how people get sucked back into fire thinking it's warmth. But I kept one thing, a voice memo. A short clip from a random Sunday when I was teaching Hannah how to parallel park. She was laughing. I was frustrated, but in a good way. She accidentally bumped the curb and yelled, "This is your fault for teaching me in a truck." I played it twice. Then I saved it in a folder named, "Proof I Tried." Because I needed to remember that I had given love. That I hadn't failed because she stopped returning it. I had only failed if I stopped offering it, and I didn't. Later that day, Alan, my lawyer, called. "Bad news for her," he said. "Madison tried to dispute the settlement. But we submitted the receipts you gave me. The bank transfers. The texts. Her little gym rendezvous. It's now part of official court record." I stayed quiet. "Long story short," he added, "you'll walk away with everything. She gets nothing beyond personal property. No spousal support. And her little attempt to claim emotional distress? Judge tossed it out." "Good," I said. "Tyler," he added. "Just so you know, this kind of clean exit? It almost never happens." I didn't want revenge, Alan, I told him. I just wanted the truth to have weight. "It did," he said. "In the right courtroom, truth is heavier than any lie." That night, I stood in front of a mirror and didn't recognize myself, not in a bad way. The eyes were clearer. The shoulders less slumped. I had a few new lines on my face. Not age. Not stress. Armor. It hit me then, I wasn't rebuilding. I was evolving. There's a difference. Rebuilding means putting the same blocks back in place. Evolving means throwing away the blueprint and designing something stronger. I picked up my phone again and stared at Hannah's text from weeks ago. "I'm sorry. I didn't know everything." I hadn't responded. I still didn't know if I would. But I typed something. "One day, you'll understand. I hope you remember me kindly." I didn't send it. Not yet. But I saved it. Because maybe, when she's older, she'll look back and wonder who I was to her. I wanted her to have something. Even if it was just that. The next day brought something I hadn't expected, peace. Real peace. It came not from closure, but from exhaustion. I was done being angry. Done imagining revenge. Done wondering if she missed me. I knew the answer. She didn't. Not the real me. She missed the version of me she could manipulate. The version that kept forgiving. The version that carried the weight of her self-destruction and still smiled across the dinner table. That man was gone. And in his place was someone sharper. Still kind, but guarded. Still loving, but with conditions now. I had boundaries. And I didn't apologize for them anymore. The real turning point came on a rainy Wednesday. I was sitting in my truck at the park, watching the water run down the windshield like the past itself was washing away. That's when I saw her. Madison. Walking alone. No umbrella. No jacket. Just drenched in a hoodie and clutching her phone like it was the last piece of a lifeline she'd already cut. She hadn't seen me. But I saw her. And for a split second, the man I used to be stirred. The fixer. The protector. But I stayed in my truck. Because helping her now would mean betraying myself again. She stopped near the bench we used to sit on. The one where she once told me she loved how safe she felt with me. She didn't look safe now. She looked lost. But I didn't move. I didn't honk. I didn't wave. I just watched her fade into the gray mist like a ghost. And then I drove away. Not fast. Not angry. Just, free. That was the moment I knew the story was no longer about her. Or Kyle. Or even Hannah. It was mine again. And for the first time in months, I could breathe without feeling like I was stealing oxygen from someone else's lies. It had been nearly a month since I saw Madison in the park. Since I watched her standing in the rain with no one to cover her, not even the man she'd sacrificed everything to chase. It was poetic, almost too on the nose. But I didn't need poetry anymore. I needed peace. And that peace didn't come with some dramatic finale or emotional outburst. It came in waves, quiet ones. Like the sound of dishes clinking in my brother's kitchen when I offered to cook breakfast. Like the way the dog from next door started wagging her tail when she saw me instead of barking. Like the small smile I gave myself when I passed by the mirror without flinching. I had survived the storm. No. I had endured the storm. Surviving is passive. Enduring is choosing, every day, not to collapse. One night, as I sat on the back porch with a coffee and a blanket slung over my shoulders, my brother stepped out, leaned against the rail, and said, "You ever think about what's next?" "Every day," I said without hesitation. He nodded. "You gonna stay here?" "For now," I said. "But not forever." He didn't need more than that. We understood each other, men who had both been gutted by love and stitched back together with silence, time, and the occasional dark joke. 1 week later, the divorce was finalized. No courtroom drama. No last-minute outbursts. Just a few signatures, some nods, and an ending so quiet it felt almost fake. But when I walked out of that courthouse, I felt something real. Something I hadn't felt in months. Weightless. I didn't feel victory. I didn't feel rage. I felt done. The kind of done that doesn't need revenge or applause. The kind of done that lets you walk away without looking back. I celebrated alone. Not with alcohol. Not with noise. I drove to a lake we used to visit as a family. Only this time, I brought no one with me. Just a folding chair, a bag of sandwiches, and my journal. I sat at the edge of the water and opened the notebook. No more lists. No more rules. This time, I just wrote the truth. She broke me. But I didn't stay broken. He betrayed me. But I didn't become bitter. The girl I raised turned away from me. But I never stopped hoping she'd find her way back. They don't get to define me. My scars are mine. My choices are mine. My story is mine again. And for the first time in a long time, I'm proud of the man I am. I closed the notebook and leaned back, letting the sun hit my face. And that's when I got the second text from Hannah. The one I didn't expect. "I found the letter you left on my laptop. The one you never sent." I read it. All of it. My breath caught in my throat. I hadn't left it for her. Not intentionally. I must have saved it to the shared family folder in the cloud by accident. But maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe part of me had hoped she'd stumble onto it. Another message came through. "I didn't know how much you cared. Mom always said you didn't love us. But I see now, she lied about a lot. I'm sorry." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. A third text. "Can we talk sometime? Just you and me?" It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a full-circle movie ending. But it was something. A flicker in the dark. A crack in the wall. I didn't rush to answer. I let the moment sit. Let the sun warm my skin. Let my heart beat. And then I typed slowly, carefully. "Of course. I've been waiting. Now I'm in my own place. Not big. Not fancy. But mine. The walls don't carry echoes of slammed doors or whispered lies. Just music, quiet mornings, and the sound of me breathing freely. I bought new furniture. New bed sheets. I even hung up that picture of my mom, the one I kept in my bag like a compass. It sits on my desk, facing the window. Every day, I remind myself. I wasn't weak for staying. I wasn't foolish for loving. And I'm not bitter for leaving. Love didn't fail me. She did. He did. But I didn't. I learned that being a man doesn't mean stomaching pain to keep a family together. Sometimes, being a man means walking away from what's killing you, and building something better, alone if you have to. I don't check Madison's page anymore. I don't care what Kyle's doing. They can rot in whatever fairy tale they created, wrapped in the same lies that cost them everything real. As for Hannah, we're not there yet. But we're talking. Slowly. Carefully. Like two people standing on a frozen lake, hoping it doesn't crack again. And I'll take that. Because this isn't a story of a man who lost everything. It's a story of a man who found himself. And for the first time in a long time, I can look in the mirror and say, he's worth fighting for.